Hello and welcome to our podcast, Belonging Beyond Borders. This podcast is brought to you by InterVarsity ISM at McGill. This podcast explores themes of culture, displacement, belonging, hearing stories from various community members. We are continuing our series called Do I Belong?
Hey everyone, welcome back to our podcast. I'm joined today by Praise and Eve Charette. We know them through InterVarsity. I'll let you guys introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, my name is Eve Charette. I go to Concordia. I'm very involved in InterVarsity over there. I'm currently studying human relations, not the same thing as HR, by the way. But I'm specifically concentrating on community development, which is just how to affect change in communities. And I love it. I'm also the older sister. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Praise. I am currently in the International Student Ministry here at McGill. I'm studying at the MAC campus in agriculture, and I am the younger sister.
Amazing. We're so glad to have you both here, and we're excited to hear more about your story. But let's take it back from the beginning. If you guys could just sort of walk us through the journey of what brought you to Canada, where you're from. Yeah, take us back.
Should I start?
You
go.
Okay, I'll start and she'll fill in wherever you feel comfortable filling in. All right, so the way I love to tell the story is that every story doesn't begin with just us as individuals. It begins with our parents. So our parents are both Nigerian, and they met in university, and at that time they were very involved in their fellowships. They were involved in all the things that they felt God was calling them to do. My dad finished and became a missionary and started churches and started a church in Togo, I believe.
Yeah. Started church.
Yeah, and then they got married. My mom finished university, and then together they moved to Ivory Coast to start a church. And there we were born.
They had her, they had me.
Yeah, you know how it goes. And then we were there. My dad has what I love to call a global mindset. So he wants to go to every part of the world and preach about Christ, which is awesome. So part of that is that as they were in Ivory Coast, he was also praying, God, is this where you want us to stay? Should we go to another place? It's a prayer they were praying together.
Mm-hmm. And also, add in, also, they were already in the planning of, maybe moving to another country in Africa. So there's always, that discussion of, okay, where is God taking us? Because we know we need to go somewhere else.
Yeah. So that was always a constant conversation. Mm-hmm. Then one beautiful Sunday, there was a guest speaker. My dad decided to give her the mic so she could say a blessing on the church. And part of the testimony, as I remember it, was, Pastor, God is telling me that you and your family are going to go to Canada.
Yeah, so she basically told a prophecy to our family, saying that God is calling you to go to Canada to minister to the western part of the world. And they were like, okay. And
it's Canada. Well, God, thank you for picking a spot, but
yeah, we were like, okay, how do we go from there? But already, we already had family that were in Canada, so we went directly to the place that they were in, the province, which was Manitoba.
So our family is in Winnipeg. A cool fun fact is we actually touched down in Montreal for a bit before we went to Winnipeg. So it's a full
circle back.
So we got to Winnipeg 2006. 2006, December 1st, saw snow for the first time. And then I think, again, there was the constant conversation of, okay, God, is this the place? Do we need to move again? And again, my dad felt that we need to move. And I think it was 2012.
It was 2012 that was when we're like, okay, we're going to move. It was very, well, at least for me, when I remember that day, it was very so sudden. Like, I was not ready to move. It was kind of like the last day of school, and I feel like whenever we've moved, I've always moved in between, like, sessions. And Evie, she's always finished when she's supposed to finish.
Yeah.
So she already got her yearbook at the school. I didn't get my yearbook. Like, I always had to, like, leave in between. So we left that summer of 2012. And how did we get here, Evie?
Oh, yeah. We drove. Okay, we drove from Winnipeg to Montreal in a white Honda.
Toyota.
Oh, no, sorry. Toyota van.
Like, it was
For
like
those people who don't know how far that is.
That's like...
It's like 2.5 days, but it took us like 3 days to get there. So we did like stops.
Yeah.
Like, my parents were saying, oh, like they've never like driven really like on the highway and stuff like that. So we were trying to avoid places to go on the highway. So we always take the countryside or take the longer route.
The scenic road.
Yes.
You know, where all the fun stuff are.
Because they don't like highways, so they're like, okay, yeah, we need to find a way to get there without going really on the highway as much. So for me, it was kind of fun, you know. I got to have Tim Hortons, like like a sugary snack in the morning, or you know, sleeping in a hotel. Yeah.
I feel like the only stop I remember on that journey
was Thunder Bay.
No, wasn't it Sudbury?
Oh no, it was Thunder.
It wasn't in Sudbury.
Oh yeah, it was Sudbury.
So we stopped in Sudbury,
and
we had the worst chicken noodle soup in the world. It was all soup and no.
Okay, so basically,
else.
We're staying in that hotel and we're like, okay, yeah, we're hungry. So then afterwards, like we saw the menu, we're like, ooh, chicken noodle soup, that sounds so good, because we're thinking, oh, it's gonna be chicken, it's gonna be noodles, but it was just like the chicken broth and then noodles. So we're very disappointed. We're like, why are you saying it's chicken noodle soup when it's no chicken?
Since that moment, Sudbury was colored in my eyes. But I went again, and Sudbury has redeemed itself. It's okay. They're good now. I love Sudbury, but that scarred me for a bit. But back to our story, and then we get to Montreal, and then
even when we came to Montreal, we stayed at this like hotel. Like, that's how our parents said hotel. So I was so excited because I'm like, oh my god, room service, oh my god, this. But it was no. It wasn't like that. It was one of those places where it's like you have to cook for yourself. You have to do everything for yourself.
So more like Airbnb.
Basically. I think it was an Airbnb, but it was like in a hotel like building.
That's how they get you.
Yeah. It was a whole scam. But it was good. But then we were able to find place again.
Yeah, like right away, like we thank God he was able to like secure us a place, and it was like downtown. I think we were in during the Airbnb, but then we went to Côte Saint Luc.
Yeah, we were in, I think, Walkley.
We were in Walkley.
Yeah. And by the grace of God, I don't even know how this happened. We just like got into the English school board really quickly.
Yeah.
We were put into school right away.
Our mom was able to get a job right away too.
That was just all God.
For context, the English school board, because here it's mostly French.
So it's mostly French, and because of the laws at the time, I think also because we're born in a French country, and we also have French immersion, and my mom.
So basically, I think the rule is like if your parents have gone to English school in Canada, then you're able to go to English school like anywhere. So I think that was why, because our parents, they did English schools when we were in Winnipeg. Yeah. So we were able to like quickly just.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just the right time.
Yeah, it really was. Because I bet if we came now, it would have been so much harder. We couldn't even do that now because you have to go into French school.
Schools. Yeah. Okay, wow. Clearly, you guys have moved around a lot, and specifically even within Canada.
Yeah.
But do you remember growing up in Africa?
No.
Not much?
I know it happened.
Okay.
I've seen pictures. I don't remember the pictures. The probably picture I only remember is a picture of me stealing food.
She was stealing like cookies.
I was stealing something.
I love how your journey is like marked by food.
It is. Food changes my experience of a location. It really, really does. But yeah, I honestly don't remember much, which I'm kind of sad about. But yeah.
Like for me, there are, I would like to say I remember stuff, but then maybe it's my mind playing games with me that I actually don't remember. But I feel like I do remember, like, when I was younger, like 2, 3, like, in the church. Like, when I see pictures in the church, I have that familiar like I'm familiar with those like looks, and maybe not the people, but really the atmosphere of it. Yeah. So like,
that's nice.
yeah.
How was it like growing up in Western Canada? Because you moved in with your cousins.
Yeah.
And you started from there. How was that like? Do you remember those early stages for you guys, for your family?
Yeah.
Picking up your life almost like, and just moving, just starting afresh. How was that like?
Yeah, for me, like, I definitely remember, like, a lot of the time, because we had our cousins, and shout out to them. They might not hear this, but shout out to them. Like, they really were a part of our childhood, and, like, they were really close friends to us. Yeah. Like, we lived together for a bit before we got our own place, and then we moved back to the place, and we had our own, so they moved, and then we moved back there. But, yeah, it was really nice, like, being around family, and, like, there's a really big like Nigerian community, so like even though we were living in the Western world, we grew up in a Nigerian household, and we did things in the like African way, and our parents are African, so that's all they know, so that's all they taught us. So maybe certain things like maybe from schooling, like I didn't understand because like that's not how I was brought up. So it was like that clash. It's like, okay, like I'm not living in Africa, but I'm having that lifestyle here, and then people don't really understand maybe some things I say, or I don't understand some things they say. So there's still, even though I was learning English and I was speaking English, there's still that like barrier.
Yeah, I feel like for me, also shout out to the cousins, they were great. Uncles and aunts, also great. I feel like growing up also, I was a bit more like into myself a little bit, shyer. Yeah, I was a bit shyer.
Yeah.
So
I was
like
very outgoing.
So yeah, that never really changed. But yeah, so I was a bit more like a bit shyer. So like for me, what I remember the most is mostly school and the people. Our cousins were great. We had a great community there. I feel like a lot of the possible culture shocks that now looking back were culture shocks was that was mostly happened in school. Where actually it was in school I learned that I was not African American and I was actually Black. So like that was a wild experience to experience at school and not in person. But so yeah, school definitely shocked the system. Yeah. Even like learning like a bit of indigenous culture in Winnipeg. It's like, oh, this is cool. Now I'm learning, on top of learning Western culture, I'm also learning about these other people who were originally there all at the same time.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, I feel like maybe like if we're talking about like race, like we were really like the only like Black people in like our classroom, so it's like it's very different not seeing other people that looked like me because I'm used to like having that Nigerian community around me, my cousins. So it's like, oh, like why don't you look like me? And then I'm like, oh, am I supposed to like look like you because this is what everyone looks like? So it also made me like I guess insecure of the way that I look. And being like my own identity as a Black woman, that was also like a struggle to like, face. Yeah.
I feel like so there was one day I learned about African Americans. So I came home and I was like so ready to tell my parents about the thing that I just learned that I possibly am, and was like, hey, so I think I'm African American, and they were like, that is not your story. That is not your history. You're not African American. So what am I? No response. I didn't really get a clear response on what I was. But one thing I knew was I was a child of God. Context for that, for people who don't know, our parents are both pastors. The only thing that seemed sure identity-wise was we were children of God.
Yeah, like our parents, they really didn't focus so much on like race and like racism, discrimination. They're just like, your identity in Christ is all that matters. That's the only identity you should be worrying about. Anything else, basically.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, but personally for me, like, those are things that are also important to me.
Yeah.
And for me to, like, wrap around and understand.
And that's hard, especially because when you're in a place like Winnipeg, where it's mostly, like, white majority.
Yeah.
And you just moved, and you're trying to, like, figure out who you are, and when you don't really know who you are, and when other people are almost putting you in a spot, like trying to, figure out this new person in school.
Yeah.
How was that like as a child? And it's also hard because like your parents didn't grow up there, so it's like hard for them to almost relate to you guys or your experiences and be able to like validate or acknowledge those things.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like trying to navigate those things on your own.
Right.
Right? How was that like as like elementary school kids, basically?
So as an elementary school kid, that was not on my mind. To be perfectly honest, I was trying to get out of school. To be honest, I was oh my gosh, I did not like school. I did not like to be graded. And I think at some point, what happened was like, I'm like, okay, they're not gonna take me out of school. I'm just gonna try to find a way to make this fun. So then I started to get involved in a lot of things. I joined a lot of clubs. I joined like, if you see my yearbook, I'm on like almost every single page. And I feel like even though I didn't realize it then, now looking back, that was a coping mechanism. Like I needed community. I needed to feel like I fit in a place where I don't understand what's going on. So that was my way of dealing, I guess, as an elementary school kid, which is pretty mature, I must say.
Again, she finished all of her elementary before we moved. I didn't.
Yeah.
So I did, what do they call it, kindergarten?
Preschool?
Pre-K? Pre-K. Yeah, I did that till, I think, grade 4, and then I did grade 5 and 6 in Montreal.
Okay.
So my experience is different.
Yeah.
I felt like I really didn't belong anywhere, and when I just started to belong, that's when I left. And like I made friends and everything. It's like we got each other's contacts, but obviously no one has. I don't have a phone to really
Facebook
keep in touch.
and Instagram weren't a thing
Exactly.
blowing up. Yeah,
you would think they were, but they weren't. They lived when it was just like starting to come up. So like I had no way to really reach them, and like also like it was just difficult. But when I came to grade 5, 6 here, it was really hard because everyone already knew each other. Yeah. I was coming in completely as an outsider. Yeah. I think as a person, I really just wanted to fit in and be accepted by the people that I was around. But unfortunately, like that didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. Yeah. And I feel like my identity, like as a Black person, as like that really played a role, especially when I came here because I don't know, maybe I noticed things more, and then also people would call me certain things that made me like acknowledge like, whoa, like I'm seen as different to these people, and like I might not even be accepted by people who do look like me, because there were some people that did look like me but they didn't accept me. So I was just like, okay, like how do I find my place culturally wise in this situation, and also how do I find my place with my own identity too? So I think I've always like struggled with that, and I never really it never really came to understanding during that time. So yeah,
it's so funny you bring that up, because I think I faced the same thing but in a different way. So like, even though I'm saying, oh, I got community and it was great in elementary, well, I actually had no way of keeping in touch with them. Even as a grade 6 person, I already had plans. I knew where I was going to go to high school. I knew who was going to be there when I was there at high school. So then to come to Montreal was a big culture shock. And then I did high school in 2 different places.
You did like middle school, like you did Sec 1 and 2, and then that's also ending, and then you did 3 and 5.
So when I did Sec 1 and 2, I was at Marymount. So Marymount is a really cool school where...
It's an interesting school.
Yeah, no, we're in a podcast. So, Marymount is interesting because they have a lot of international students. They have an IB program. So the
International board, yes.
Yes. So they have an IB program. So there's a lot of international people there. But like still even there, I was like, oh, I couldn't really figure out how to fit in. So there was a point where even identity-wise, I was just like, oh, let me just adapt to the surroundings that are around me. I don't really think I acted like myself in the 2 years that I was there. I was just trying to like survive. So that was an experience that I did not enjoy, to be honest. But yeah, one thing that did stick was the community thing, though. I did try to make community my best way I could, but yeah.
So we've talked a lot about you guys moving and how that's affected you being able to fit into one community or the other. Just when you feel like you fit in, you move again. You guys have lived in Canada for quite a while now. How do you feel now as adults? Do you feel like you fit in and belong? How has that been, your journey of belonging?
Yeah, it's been a journey. I get uncomfortable with the question still of where are you from? I personally dislike the question because it's like, do you want the short answer or the long answer? And then even then, the short answer, what do I choose as my short answer? Do I choose Ivory Coast? Do I choose Canada? Or do I choose Nigeria? So I think that entire question kind of encapsulates how it's been, where it's like, I don't know where I'm from, really. I don't know the culture that best describes or best suits what I'm presently going through, because I've been affected by them all. Like, there's not one that's more predominant than the other. It's just part of my history. I think that's the conclusion that I've come to, and by the grace of God, I'm learning how to be myself more and communicate to other people. This is just how I'm like because of this is the past context of everything that's going on with me. Sometimes I explain a lot to other people why I'm saying a thing, and they might think it's because, oh, she's over explaining. No, it's because I don't want to be misunderstood, as in I don't want someone to say, oh, it's because you're Nigerian, you're acting this way. Oh, it's because you're Canadian, you say sorry too much. No, that's not why. It's because there's context to why I'm apologizing to you. There's context to why I am doing this action. So trying not to be defined by us place has been important to me.
I feel like recently I've been meeting a lot of people that have already known Evishara, so I don't even have to say all this. They already know my story because she already told them everything, so that like leaves it. But I guess in my
big sister looking out for you.
Number one.
Or sometimes when I do want to
person.
explain it, they're like, "Oh, Fa already told me." I'm like, "What?"
Number one. Nobody's defining us by where we're from. No. You can define me by what God has said, but not where I'm from.
Yeah. Like, I personally don't think I really identify so much as being Canadian because I've never felt truly accepted by the people who I try my best to be accepted by. And then also, I try so hard to be accepted and learn more about my own culture, my parents' culture, because I want to identify more in that light. But then also the people don't consider me one of them because I didn't grow up living there all my life. And, you know, the way that I talk, it's not in the way that they're used to. Or if I do talk in their language, they laugh at me because it sounds different. So it's like I'm trying so hard to just find a place where I fit in, where I belong. But it's like I'm still like in the middle, in between. I still don't really I'm just floating like in space. But I do thank God that like I am more confident in my identity in Christ. That, you know, no matter where I fit in and where I belong, God accepts me and loves me. Yeah. And I think that's what's really comforted me, that I don't necessarily need that acceptance from other people, but I do try my best now to just learn more about the culture that my parents brought me into and the culture that I was raised up in, and also just continue to just be myself and not feeling like I have to change myself to please other people or to feel like, oh, this is what I have to do to fit in with others. I'm praised. That's who I am as a person, and I think that's what I'm starting to learn more about myself.
Amazing. What is one thing that you guys could maybe leave with our audience that are also struggling with these same struggles, and are maybe even new to it or are fighting it currently and not being able to come to terms with things? What is some big sister advice that you'd give to our viewers?
I feel like that's my cue to start first, right?
Yeah, big sister.
Big sister. Wow, I have a lot of big sister advice. I feel like I'll say two things. So number one, big sister advice would be to be yourself while you're learning about the different places that you're from or trying to navigate the confusion. I think a thing that I learned the hard way several times is that adapting to other people is not the way to learn about a culture. Yeah. It actually has to be at your own pace, at your own time. You have to be conscious of yourself, the way you're being led by God, the way that the things that you're interested in, it does not have to be forced. It can be according to who you already are. My second big sister advice is to not do it alone. Don't do it alone. It's less fun that way, and also you'll just be alone with your thoughts. If you do something alone, make sure you have a buddy to talk to about this. This is why I've also really loved InterVarsity. They have been like my community to go to disseminate all the cultural things that I have been going through. So get yourself a buddy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though I'm not a big sister, my big sister advice would definitely be to just take time and be patient with yourself during this journey that you're going through. And also that it's important to just let God flow through you and allow God to help you in where you should go. And don't be afraid to just go out of your comfort zone. Yeah. Because for me, sometimes it's very hard for me to go out of my comfort zone. But recently I've been going out of my comfort zone and doing a lot of things that's made me more secure in my own identity as praise and made me more comfortable in my own skin. So, there's some things that you want to do, but you're too afraid to do. Sometimes you just have to go and try to do that thing because you might be more happy with the results and the outcome, and you might become refreshed and a better person than you were the day before. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you both so much for joining us on our podcast. It was lovely.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, it was so lovely to hear your stories, and hear a lot more about your journey and the journey that you're continuously on. Because I, from what you guys said and what I've also experienced, it's a continuous process of finding yourself and being able to put meaning to your surroundings. Yeah. But thank you guys so much.
Thank you.